Hi, my name is Chris and today I would like to talk about the Canon EOS R to EF adapter with its variable ND filter. You can take it out and if you look you can see it's variable. I'm a freelance photographer from the Netherlands. I like to make a video sometimes. I make videos of products I've used for quite a while. I've now used this for a year or something, so I like to tell you my opinion. First of all, I would like to talk about the specs. The ND filter in this goes from 1.5 stops to 9 stops. That's the same as ND2 to ND512, dus ND512. As you may know, 1 stop is the same as ND2 and 2 stops is the same as ND4 and 3 stops is ND8, so the ND multiplies by 2, so 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, all the way up to 1024, and this one goes up to ND512. It's variable, so you only need one filter, so that's good. It's behind the lens, so you don't get sun flare in it, you don't get dust on it so much. It protects the sensor also a bit. When you take a lens off, there's this layer between the sensor and the outside world. Maybe the biggest advantage is you can fit every lens on it you want. I use it on my 70-200. I also use it sometimes on my Sigma 150-600. And another one I like to use it on is my Loa 50mm, which is a wide angle macro lens. It's really hard to put a filter in front of this. You really need a wide one, and the good thing with the variable is you can put it behind it. And I made a video about this lens. You can see it on my channel if you want to. It's a really strange but nice lens. And another lens I like to use it on is my macro 100mm Canon L lens. The only lens I cannot use it on is my RF glass, which came with my Canon EOS R. So that's of course expectable, but it's a bit of a shame. Another good thing is it has weather sealing. On the back over here, there's a little weather sealing. It's made out of metal and I think the outside is made of plastic. You have a little scroll wheel on the side and that's how you adjust the brightness. If I take it out, you can see if I scroll it all the way to this side. If I scroll it all the way to this side, it's light, and if I scroll it to the other side, it gets dark. There's also 2 other filters you can use with this adapter. There's a polarization filter. And there is a neutral filter that's just a piece of glass. I would love if they have just an empty case with no filter, but apparently they made one with clear glass. You can use that if you don't want to use any filters, but you want to use the adapter. Okay, let's talk about price. This thing cost in Europe 449 euros. That's with the adapter and the filter. If you only want to buy the filter, it's 299 euros. So that's quite expensive. If you want to buy it in the United States, it's $399 for the whole set and $249 for only the filter. Okay, let's talk about color. The color is very neutral until you get to the end. When it's getting dark, it's getting really blue. And that's a known problem with dark ND filters. That's not a big problem, you can fix it in post. The one thing I would recommend is to put your white balance as neutral as possible. Let's say your white balance is a bit blue and you put the N filter on its maximum, it also turns a bit blue. Then your picture is getting really blue. And you can of course adjust this in post, only the problem is you're starting to get to the far end of the spectrum, so you don't have much room to do any other adjustments if you want to have some special colors in your pictures. So I like to put this as neutral as possible with the filter in, so it all depends on the scene of course, but when you're on location and you see it's a bit blue, I would recommend to adjust it to make the picture a bit warmer. So what are the pros of this adapter? in my eyes, the pros are you can put all EF lenses on it. That's of course perfect. I really like the range, that it goes really dark. Another pro is that it protects your sensor, like I told in the beginning. The cons are that the wheel is really small. It doesn't have a click function, and I know that's because a lot of people use it for filming and you don't want to hear the click. But it would be nice if there's a little button where you can turn the click on or off. Probably it's not possible, but I would really love something like that. In relation to the non-clickable wheel, there's no really markings on it. It only says maximum, medium and minimum. So you don't really know where you are in the range. Of course you can see it on your camera, you see it by how your lighting is, but there's no exact number, and maybe it has to do with the accuracy across the whole range they produced, that they don't put an exact number, and it's also a very small wheel. Maybe it has to do something with that, but you really have to rely on the numbers in your camera and not on the numbers on this, because there are no numbers on this. Another con of this adapter is that there is no extra empty filter that you can put in here when you don't want to use the ND filter, but you only want to use it to adapt the lens. It would be nice if you had an empty one you can stick in here. As you can see, it's just plastic with a little mechanism to take it out. For the price you're paying for it, in my opinion, a little plastic empty cage would justify the price to me. What can you do with this filter? Well, you can create motion blur in pictures. For example, if you have water, you can take a long exposure and the water turns into a sort of an icy layer. As you can see in these examples, I took a few pictures with different exposure times. And as you can see with this one, it's normally like you would see it. This one, the water gets a bit more icy, and with the last picture, the ice effect is really there. And if you have like calm water in a lake, and if you have like a mountain in the background, you can really see the reflection on the water. So the second place I went to use this filter is to a waterfall. The problem is I live in the Netherlands, we don't have mountains, and due to that we don't really have waterfalls. The biggest waterfall we have is man-made. It's not even a waterfall, it's more of a water slide. And I went there, and unfortunately I was a bit disappointed. There was a lot of rain the last few days, but as you can see, they didn't create some extra roughness in the waterfall. I was a bit disappointed. But later on I went to the small waterfall that's 1K from this one. And as you can see, the water is a bit rougher over here. So I made a few pictures, and as you can see, using the ND filter, the water turns into like this white curtain. I would have loved to have a more rough waterfall, but this summer I'm going to Austria and Germany, and I go into the mountains, and hopefully I'll find some nice waterfalls over there where I can use this filter. The main reason why I bought this filter is to shoot time-lapse videos, because you want to introduce motion blur in your time-lapse, because that makes it more smooth. So I took some pictures. As you can see in these examples, I took some pictures of cars that were driving by, and as you can see in the first one, this is without the filter and the car is really good visible. And in the second picture I made the exposure time a bit longer, and as you can see, the car is still visible and recognizable as a car, only there are some streaks. And in the third picture I even made the exposure time longer, and the car turns into some lines. And in this last picture the exposure time was so long that you don't recognize the car anymore, there's only a few light colors. In my time-lapse videos I'd like to use the second option, where you can still see it's a car, but you don't really recognize the model and you really see some motion blur. That's the main focus. In my second time-lapse example I used this Loa 50mm lens, and I took photos of the city I'm living in, and there's a lot of people passing by. In this photo you can see there's a cyclist passing by, but you don't recognize the cyclist. You can see it's a cyclist, but that's it, and that's really nice for my time-lapse video. If you want to see this time-lapse video, I'm still working on it. I'm waiting for spring to come, that everything turns green, but already got some stormy weather, and I also have to do the sound design and I have to do the whole montage. But in a few months I will be posting this on my channel. So if you're curious about this time-lapse video and it's not out yet, because you could be watching this in a few months, subscribe to my channel, hit the little bell so you get notified when another video is coming up. A third option I use this adapter is to do light painting. I really like light painting. Normally you can only do it when it's really dark and you use a flashlight to light your scene. With this adapter you can even do it on a cloudy day outside. You need a good flashlight to light your scene, but because of the dark ND filter, you can take a 2-second exposure photograph, and when using a flashlight you can light the part of the scene that you want. And without this ND filter that is not possible because you get too much light. So I took this inside, but at daytime it was quite light outside, and I used a flashlight and the ND filter. And the last option I use this ND filter is to keep a shallow depth of field. This is used by a lot of people who are using it to make video. What you can do is you can keep your aperture number low, so let's say a 1.4 or 2.8. But normally when you're outside there's too much light, so you have to stop it down. But when using the ND filter you can stop the light down using the filter, and you can keep your aperture low, so your depth of field stays very shallow and gives a really filmic look. Of course you can also do this with photography. If you want to take a photo of something with a shallow depth of field, you can also use this filter, so that's also quite a handy feature of this filter. So that was my video about this Canon EF RF variable ND filter. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like it, I say it again, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in another video. Thank you for watching.